Hey everybody, Into the Flow is here. How you doing? I'm Gustavo Furman, and I'm excited on today's episode. But before we get into it, I want to ask you to please, yes, subscribe and like when you watch this show on YouTube and when you listen to it on Spotify. I appreciate it. It will help me my momentum and the flow of my show going. Yes, thank you. All right. So yes, today's episode, I'm excited again. I'm such a blessed guy to have all these cool guests. The next guest his name is Mike Kitlas from Arizona, a real estate agent, very successful real estate agent. He sells like huge mansions. We're talking big things. And he's not only that, but he's actually used to be a musician, has his own band and travel over the world. And wow. Plus also, he's the host of The Perspective Shift, one of my fave podcasts out there that he co-hosts with Frank Daly. Now, Frank Daly was in my show as well before. Now I have Mike with me. Wow, such a cool guy to interview because we had a great conversation about following your flow, the intuition, and how to manifest your dreams and all the good stuff, all the nice stuff, all right? So it's time to go into the flow and listen to this next one because it's a good one. Let's go. Hey everybody, how are you? Good to see everybody here Into the Flow. Nice. I'm excited, of course, always. Don't do anything if you're not excited. I'm excited to have the host of Perspective Chef.
Yep.
I already had Frank Daly on my show in the beginning of the season. Now I have his partner in crime, Mike Kitlas from Arizona, and I'm so happy to have you here with me in my podcast.
It is
Thank you
great
so
to be
much.
here, Gustavo. Good to see you,
Thank
my
you.
friend.
Thank you. High fives. Woo!
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love your energy. It's so exciting to be here with you on your show. Frank and I are fans of your show as well, so it's exciting to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I want to introduce you because it's very important to people to know your background really quick. I know you're going to talk more about it, but you are a successful real estate agent
Yep.
in Arizona, like selling big homes.
Yeah. It's a lot of great stuff out here. Yep.
Good stuff. You're very successful. I know. I looked at your website, and
Thank you,
I'm like,
sir.
wow, this guy's doing good. And also you used to be, and very interesting because I'm also a musician dancer, and I've worked with so many musicians. Used to be a musician,
Yes.
and I don't know back in the day, I don't know when it was.
I,
You
I
had
signed my
long hair. You had long hair. You look really cool, man. Like on the picture that I saw. So, and you
I
used to play guitar or bass.
I played guitar and I signed
Okay.
my first record contract at 18 years old. It felt great. Yep. And then I started touring the US, the world. I've been, international, national, all the above. It was a
Wow.
very cool experience. And yes, I was a guitar player. And yes, my hair used to be down to here.
That's
I
awesome.
uh, I cut that
That's
off to, when I got into real estate. I
Oh,
had to
well, you
make sure
got
I
it, man. You got to sell the homes. You
grow,
got to look good.
right? So I donated like 14 inches to Locks of Love. It's a way to give your hair back, and I think they turn it into wigs, and it's for like people suffering from cancer, hair loss, things like that.
Wow. Wow.
So
Really?
I made sure I wanted to donate my hair.
Wow. Is that like real?
Yeah, oh yeah, I did that. Yeah, that's
That's
a real
so
thing.
cool.
Yeah, so they make you ponytail it, and then you
Yeah.
have to cut it, and I think you need at least 12 or 13 inches, and I gave 14 inches, and yeah, they take the real hair and then they make wigs out of it.
Oh, that is so awesome. I'm so
Yeah,
happy. That's so cool you did that, man.
yeah, it was
So you
fun.
did have a long hair. That's awesome.
I did. It was very long.
And so, okay, so now we're talking about the music, but I don't want to forget the other questions, but I want to kind of go into music and how
Yes,
what
please.
happened there because getting a record deal in music, that's huge. And I don't know what type of music it was.
Yep.
By the looks of it, it was more of a rock style. Am I correct?
Correct. It was like rock and roll music, is what I say, like
You're
alternative
right. Sorry, you
rock
did
and
that. You
roll
said that.
type of
Yeah.
stuff. Like a Green Day or something like that.
Oh, Green Day style. Cool. And so, how do you get that record dealing toward the States? That's already a big accomplishment right there.
Yeah, it was exciting. So I was the youngest member in my band, only by like a year or so. But we waited until we got the offer from the record company when I was still 17, and I said, "Hey, look, I'm gonna sign my own record deal." I was like, just I don't know, 9 months away from turning 18. So the record company said, "Hey, look, we get it. You want to sign your own paperwork? Okay, we'll wait it out." So I inked the first deal at 18, literally days after my birthday. It was really exciting.
Wow.
And we hit the road touring full time. Um, it was quite the experience because in and out of high school during the summers, my band and I, we would travel up, the West Coast playing different shows. We'd play often at like in LA for different record labels and, the music critics and stuff like that to really get our name out there. And then finally, we signed the right deal. We had a great manager. It was awesome. My favorite part about playing in the band was absolutely traveling. I loved it. I've been everywhere in the United States a number of times 20, 30, 40 times.
Oh, wow.
I've been
Yeah.
all over, Japan. Where else did we go that was really cool? Canada was a lot of fun. I remember going to Canada, and that was cool. We've played all over the place, and so I love the international travel component because it gave me the opportunity to see London. Where was that other one with the really thick accents that I went? Trying to remember. It was Glasgow, Scotland,
Scotland. Yeah.
the UK, all these areas. It was such a cool experience to see how other people live all over the place. And I love that you started with this music, or we started kind of on the music chapter because here I am later on in life, and my travels taught me so much early on. I remember traveling all over the world and being like, man, people all over the world are feeling the same ways. People are upset. People don't know what to do. People, are trying to work with these emotions that we're given. And I met so many cool and interesting people. And I look back at my journey and I'm like, wow, these were all like little building blocks to get me to that awakening moment where things
Mhm.
started to click for me. And I feel like it was through my different experiences that I was able to, have that moment where the light bulb turns on and you realize, wow, I'm creating this. I'm part of this experience, and
Mhm.
that was so beautiful to me because I can look back and see how I learned that through my different experiences, and then that's what led me, of course, into perspective shift.
Oh, wow.
The show I host with Frank Daly, which is all things consciousness, all things metaphysical. We talk about spiritual teachers, lecturers, the greats like you were talking about, Abraham Hicks, Esther, Joe Dispenza, I'm trying to Muji, all these people that
Bashar.
we love
Yeah.
Bashar. We love Bashar. We just Frank and I, as well as my girlfriend Kayla, we just went to the Bashar in-person event that he had in Sedona last year. So we were
Nice.
there in September. We love Bashar. And yeah, I just think it's so cool watching my life unfold and lead me to the spot I am here.
Wow. And that's such a great story. First of all, like in music, same as dance, you go a lot by your intuition, by your inspiration of the music of the sound or whatever in dance, the movement or whatever. That's already the essence of the essence of your inner being really working there. And also not just for you, I think for you in your case where I was listening to it, it's like you were kind of aware of that, what you were creating in some way, like you were in touch with that. You could have been some kid they was just playing and just I don't know, just doing drugs or something, and in the music. But you actually were aware of that. Where you were appreciating where you were, all the different countries. You know what I mean? So you were really listening to your inner being through the music and that awareness that we're talking about. It's like I'm doing this, I'm creating this kind of stuff, and I appreciate it. That to me, that's awesome. You know? Or have you? Oh, I think you must have. Hold
Yep.
on. Oh, yeah, you went a little,
I've
you
got you good on
froze.
my end.
Okay.
Can you see me on your end? I've got you clear over here.
Yeah, I can see you. Hopefully, it will be
Perfect.
good. Um, so yeah. Anyways, I was just kind of saying that I like your story there on how you got going with the music, and then that took you into the next step.
Yep.
With so to me, that's kind of following the flow. Was there a time where before that where you didn't know what following the flow, following your intuition, inner being was about and all? I mean, what was how you actually realize that you have an inner being?
Yeah,
First of all,
absolutely. Great question. So, throughout my experiences with my band, I loved it, right? I had created this identity, of this character that I was, playing music, touring the world, all of this. This was great, right? And I loved it. Well, while I was on tour, one of the agreements I made with my parents was I would still go to college. So I was accepted on a scholarship to the Northern Arizona University, NAU. So I was going to college. I remember doing my homework in the back of the tour bus. I did that for 4 years, and I got my bachelor's degree in business.
oh wow,
Yeah,
good.
I got a business degree, and then I minored in public management. And so those were like what I did while I was going to school. So as I was at the end of my school years, and I graduated, the touring lifestyle takes a toll on you.
Yeah,
You have to be on the road constantly in order to make money in that business, in order to keep yourself afloat and bring money in. So this made it very difficult to have relationships, friendships. You're gone 9, 10 months out of the year, and it was difficult. And so it was always weighing on me. And I watched as these feelings of it weighing on me affected the way I looked at the band and and the enjoyment and fulfillment I got out of it. Because when I first started, I loved it. And I look back and I can see how I created it. I remember falling asleep at night, laying in my bed, picturing myself in a tour bus, picturing me playing in front of thousands of people and watching that come to life. It
wow,
was beautiful. But at the end, I was getting tired. I was getting upset. I was frustrated. And I could see that reflected in my experience on tour. So I remember I went to my band and I said, "Hey guys, look, we've had a great run. I love this, but I'm gonna try the real world, right? I'm gonna go. I just graduated. I'm gonna go get a job. I'm gonna see what this is like." And so that was a difficult conversation at that time, especially because that was my identity. I was Mike, the guitar player. That was me. And so my spiritual awakening comes after this. So I exit the band, right? I try to, get into the workforce. I apply at different jobs and I get into the workforce and I realize like this is not the workforce that my parents told me about, where you get in, you start working a job, you work your way up, you get up there, you get a pension, and things start to flow. No, no, no. Any millennial out there knows, nope. They're hiring you for 30 grand a year and trying to keep you stuck here. And if you're getting up there, they'd
yeah,
rather cut you, hire somebody else because it's cheaper, to fill the role. And so I was like, what is this? And so I kept thinking it was something I was doing wrong. So I kept, all right, I better try this job, let me do marketing instead of sales. All right, well, I get into marketing. And what I started to realize is like, I could never find my footing. And I actually became very depressed, is probably the best word, because
yeah,
I felt like I was not the person I was before. I was like, before I was this, I was a musician. I was touring. It was cool. I loved it. And now I'm just, trying to make ends meet at a job and I'm not happy. And, I'm not enjoying myself. I bought my first home. I thought after I had a home, I would feel better about myself. I didn't. I kept running into dead end after dead end. At these jobs I was working at, I would try to make suggestions to like other departments, like, hey, we should try this with our marketing. And I would be told, like, dude, stay in your lane. You work in
mm,
sales. And then
mm, yeah,
I'd be in marketing. I'd try to tell the sales guys, hey, I found great success with this. We should try running a campaign with, hey, dude, stay in your lane. You're in marketing. You're not in sales. And so I
right,
started to realize, like, I'm not cut out for this job thing. I like to wear multiple hats. And
Yeah.
so that's when I started to discover real estate, which, allowed me to start my own business, be my own boss, if you will. And so I slowly, started to see, very disappointed for years after touring and, trying to find myself. And I hit a very low point in my life where I was not happy. I felt like a loser, to be honest. I'd always felt cool when I was touring. I felt like I was making a difference in people's lives. I felt like I was giving back and I was serving others. And I just got to this point where I was like, I don't like who I am. And it was a
Mm,
very hard time. And
right.
I remember thinking, like, man, what have I done? I gave up music. Was that the right choice? Was that wrong of me? Every job I'm working, I freaking hate. And then I stumbled across Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Ah,
Yep. And
yeah.
this started to kind of go in tandem with Frank too. So Frank Daly has known my family. He's the co-host of Perspective Shifts. He's known my family for, geez, the last 15 years or so, maybe even 20. And
Yes. Okay.
Frank owns a hair salon, and he's cut my parents, or it's not my parents, my mom's hair for years. Helped with my sister's wedding, all sorts
Oh,
of stuff.
wow. Great. Okay.
And so out of the blue one day, my mom was like, hey, because I was telling her, yeah, my barber, had to move out of state. And she was like, well, why you look for a new barber? Why don't you have Frank cut your hair? And I said, okay. And this is all like right in this transitionary period, right? This is all in 2016, 2017-ish,
Right.
time frame. And so I start to go in with Frank and I sit down, we get to talking and Frank's dropping these little like breadcrumbs, each time we're meeting together and stuff like that. And he starts, kind of saying to me, hey, if you're not happy with things, you should look into, learning about, how your mind works, how this
Mm,
mind body thing, works together. And he gave me this really good analogy where he told me, he goes, hey, so you're telling me you're unhappy with work, you're unhappy with, your relationships, you're unhappy with, things with friends and family. You got to picture yourself like a guitar. Right now, if your guitar, you pick up a guitar and it's not in tune, would you be upset at the guitar and that it's not playing in tune, or would you begin to tune the strings? And I said, of course, tune the strings. And he goes, so let's picture like areas of your life as strings, right? Like, are we eating healthy? Are we going to bed at a good hour? Are we drinking? Are we partying? Are we talking with friends? Are we trying to create good relationships? Are we, what are we doing in these different areas of our life? And it like hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, man, I'm expecting my guitar to play in tune, but I'm
mm,
refusing to tune it. I'm
wow.
just sitting here bitching, complaining, and pointing the finger at the world outside of me, saying it's all of these reasons why I'm not successful. It's all of these reasons why things aren't working out for me. It's my parents' fault. If I only grew up in this type of neighborhood or in this type of situation, I'd be
Right.
just.
Yep.
And I started to realize what a victim I was
Mm,
and victim that I crafted. And then Frank started to kind of introduce these different consciousness, high level type of thinking concepts to me. And this is where like Dr. Joe Dispenza started to come in. And I started to learn about the subconscious mind. I started to learn how our subconscious mind works and these different habits and patterns that we develop and how we call them our identity and how we identify with this character. I was identifying as somebody who was unhappy, frustrated, burnt out, jaded, but expecting my life to be amazing and expecting my life to be great. And so it started there for me. This was like 2017 timeframe. So what I started to do is, you know, Frank was like the first person that I like respected. I liked him. I thought he was cool that introduced these types of concepts to me. So I was like, okay, there has to be something here because Frank's a good guy. He's known my family for years. I like him. He's cool. There's here. I'm watching material and that Frank hosted at one of his salons, these different meditation. As a group, do a 30,
um,
40 minute about things. And this is where I would like ask Frank about different questions or ask Frank, like about, hey, what's your take on this? And so I really started to get an idea of what this consciousness thing was. And then it clicked. And I remember driving home one day from one of our meditations and it hit me. It was like the biggest awakening ever. And I was like, oh my God, this is all me, everything. How I look at this world, how I interact with this world, how I feel affects everything. And then from there, I mean, I was hooked.
Wow.
I mean, anything consciousness related, I wanted to read about it. I wanted to learn about it. And that's kind of where my journey started back in 2017.
Wow, that's an amazing journey. Sorry, I had a little problem with the internet again.
No
So
problem.
you kind of froze a bit. So people, sorry about that. There was a little technical difficulties, but we're back here. I might have to move to a better reception if it happens one more time. So it's gonna be
Okay.
an interesting kind of interview today where I'm gonna be walking around with the computer.
No
but uh,
problem.
but that's just like wow, that's so cool to see the journey and like meeting Frank. Well, he was a friend of your family already, but you meet, and then he actually started telling you like there's always a moment where ourselves, like our ego is wanting to actually get out. It's actually our ego has enough.
Yeah.
That it can't move any longer. It has to change.
Yeah.
And because we're our energy, and you mentioned it very clearly there, we're our energy, and we're in control of our ego. We're in control of our human ego. Like we control, like you were saying, the guitar. You can tune it, right? You can tune. So you were kind of thinking from your ego perspective, like going like, I'm a victim, right?
Yeah.
I don't have this, I don't have that. I've been in that situation so many times where it doesn't feel good.
Oh,
It doesn't feel good. So you know that you're repelling and you're like going, this is not right. And so that moment comes where with source, I call it source, universe,
yeah.
it's kind of like, this is your path. Like, look at this, look at it, you know. And with you, as you met Frank, he started talking about it. Boom, open your whole thing. And then for me, it was interesting because again, my career was it's been very successful. You mentioned Canada. You went to Canada for your with your band. What's the name of your band?
So my band was called Ann Arbor, like kind of like Michigan. That's where my whole
Oh,
family's from. So I was
Ann
the
Arbor.
songwriter for our group. So we
Oh,
named
wow.
it that. It was
Oh,
spelled
cool.
Anarbor, Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor. I like it. So I lived in Vancouver, Canada for many, many years, and
Cool.
that's where I created my career, my dance career. I created a trademark called Latin Funk Dance, and I started started like creating like tons of shows and events and DVDs back in the day. I
Yeah.
used to sell my DVDs online, and it went really heavy. It went hard. It was fun, It was like I was doing like million things. I was happening. I was on TV, and then I was a moment where I got depressed because when you mentioned that when you got depressed, I was like, why am I depressed? What's going on here? I'm doing so much, you know, and it's not enough still, it's not enough. And so I started kind of going, why is this happening? I'm not appreciating what I have, what I created. Like I should be so ecstatic and appreciating not, oh, I want to be in New York doing this. I want to be in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. No, I'm doing it in Vancouver and I'm changing people's lives through dance. Why am I appreciating it? And so I had a burned out and then I stopped teaching for a long time. I stopped kind of a lot of the classes. I kind of minimized. And then when I was here in San Diego with my sister visiting, and then I was telling her that how I was feeling. And there's a lady outside. We were walking on La Jolla. I don't know if you know the area, but we're walking La Jolla there and it's all these stores. And one lady is outside. Go, hey, you know, she said, come to the store. She was selling some sort of beauty products. Come to the store and I talked about these beauty products, women's hair, blah, blah, blah. And my sister's like, oh, why not? Sure. She went in with her, right? And the lady was following Abraham Hicks. at the time. And the lady started talking to my sister about it. And then my sister comes out. She's like, that was a really good, like, she bought a product and whatever. And she's like, that was so awesome. And then this lady, she's really positive, really upbeat. She gave me this name. Go online and look it up. So I went online that night and I looked and it's just like,
I love it. I know
you know,
exactly what you mean.
it,
Yep.
and I was like, oh my, I was so excited. And so, I mean, it's been a learning experience. And what you were talking about is that you were working hard. You were going against the flow, you
Yep.
know. You were going so against the flow. You were following the matrix. You were following what your
Yes.
parents and the society expects you to do. But you
Exactly.
weren't following your inner being. You weren't following source. And when you follow that, I feel like things just like you can breathe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can just so that's so cool that you talked about how you got again back to Frank and you guys started talking and then now tell me how that changed your life from then on in your career.
Absolutely. So this is like now, so now I'm at the point where I'm still working the jobs. I'm like, whatever about. I knew I needed to do something different and I was feeling that. And so, right, I now met Frank. I've now had these discussions and these light bulbs are now going off, right? And I'm like, okay, there's something here. Okay, so I need to start to listen to my intuition. And so I was working a job at the time as an insurance adjuster. So I was the guy writing, rebuilds on residential construction or commercial construction. If they, had an insurance claim, due to a windstorm or, the whole house floods, I was the guy who came over and I'd write that rebuild. So I knew construction and real estate from the ground up, for both residential and commercial. And it was so funny because I was walking around my block one night and I remember saying, I'm going to go into real estate. It was like,
Mm.
I could just feel it. I don't know how to explain it. It was like, you should go to real estate school. It was like clear as day to me. And I said, okay, I'm going to listen to this intuition, this little guidance that I just got. So I started going to real estate school at night. And it took me, I don't know, whatever, 6, 7, 8 months to, go through the full like schooling, all the tests and all that good stuff. And I finally became licensed. This is like 2018 or whatnot. So at that point, I remember saying, okay, I'm licensed in real estate now. I can try to work my other job and feel safe and have this safety net, or I can go full time into real estate. And I remember saying to myself, this is like right in the beginning of me learning about how this all works. And I was like, you need to go all in. And this was scary because like I didn't have a huge savings at that time. I didn't have a bunch of money to my name. And I remember saying, all right, screw it. What's gonna happen? I'm gonna be right back where I'm at. I'll figure it out somehow. Just go for it. So I quit my job. And I said, I'm going all in. I've never sold a house before. And I'm like, all right, here goes nothing. And it was the best decision that I'd ever made in my life. I
Wow.
picked up my first client within the first month. I closed my first sale within the first 60 days of being licensed. And then it
Wow.
started to flow. And I
Nice.
mean, holy crap. It was like the floodgates started to open. I'm meeting people left and right, at these different open houses and events, and we're hitting it off. I start to grow my own real estate company at year two. So by the end of year two, I had a real estate team of 28 different agents that are working with me.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got
That's
16 on the East Valley. I got 12 in the West Valley. And these are agents that have been doing this for 5, 10, 12, 15 years, producing agents. Here I am 2 years into the business, and I'm running this team.
the new kid on the block is taking over.
It was crazy, but keep in mind during this time is when everything I am all in on everything consciousness. I didn't
Mm.
consume news or media or any of that. I tuned it all out because I realized
Wow.
that it's just there to distract you. It's just
Wow.
noise. As soon as you learn how to focus your energy and really dial in, oh shit, it's a game changer. And that's
Wow.
what happened for me as I began to fully dial in. breath work in the morning, my meditations each morning, my meditations each evening, getting very clean with my eating, my habits, like, my friendships, all of this, I remember
Mm.
pouring into myself and I could see this reflected in the business coming my way. And I was like, wow. So here I am now, 7 years into real estate. I absolutely love it. I clearly have found my path, my calling. It's something I jump out of bed each day excited to do. I get to serve families. I get to help people make good investments. I help people increase their wealth. It is such a rewarding career, and I absolutely love it. And so that's kind of how I got into the real estate space. And here I am now. I do residential, I do new construction, I do commercial, I specialize in land sales. I do a lot of like land division for investment properties. You cut up these different parcels, you put the investment homes on them, and then resell those.
Wow.
So
Wow.
all these building blocks started to, see, when you're on the path, it can seem slow. It can seem like you're not I remember being on the path and just saying to myself, just take the next right step, do the next right thing. I had
Mm.
somebody tell me that one time, do the next right thing. You
Yeah.
start doing the right thing and good things start to happen. And so all these little building blocks, and then they would like compound, like all of a sudden you were here and you're like here, and then you're doing all this, and then you're another level, and you're like, whoa, like all of this has happened in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and you feel like during the day to day nothing's happening, and then you look back and you're like, holy crap, what have I done?
Wow. That's so cool. I actually had some friends that got into real estate in Canada and they hated it.
Yeah,
Or I should say one of them really, the other ones didn't do that good, but they're still on it. I think they did better later. But the one person I was thinking, you just reminded me of her because she was going into the business with the wrong attitude in the beginning, the wrong vibration, the wrong frequency. And so I think you going into the business, learning this, what you learned first, and going into the business, that opened, like you said, opened the doors. But you weren't really trying so hard. You studied, you got ready. You're like, oh, here we go. But you had the right attitude, like your energy. People don't realize the energy that we project or that we carry. It speaks volumes because that's what attracts the clients. That's what attracts all the opportunities. And then it's like people like some guy would be like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for all this time, and this kid comes in,
that's
and, and,
exactly
and
what happened.
yeah, and then maybe this guy is like can sell a house because his attitude is wrong. His vibration is not working. He's criticizing people. Is always being negative about whatever. So it's so simple. You have it's not more just. I always thought about being positive, but positive to me, now that I know that I know this, it's like positive is just a little tiny little thing of the whole equation.
Yeah,
You know,
correct.
it's more of this the vibration that goes with the frequency of the universe. The universe is always giving you good stuff all the time.
The more you relax, the more you receive. And as soon as you can understand how your nervous system works, holy shit, you're going to have a game changer. I'll have people ask me all the time, Mike, what did you do? How did you get, what you're doing? And I tell them, I'm like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. And they're like,
Yeah,
what do you mean by that? It's through your mind. You learn about the subconscious mind. That's how you're going to find success. And people are like,
exactly.
what does this mean? And it's like, that's your key. That's your skeleton key to success.
Wow. And you said something very interesting because I was listening to Bashar and he said like the same thing. It's like less is more, like in anything really. So people have this wrong idea of like, again, working hard. If
Yep.
you don't work hard, right,
Yep.
you don't accomplish. But it's like working smart or also in a way, sitting back a little more, breathing more, to connect more to things, to get excited, right? To get inspired. And then what do I feel frisky about? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
what excites me? Oh, I'm gonna do this first. I'm gonna send this email to this person. Boom, 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 and it happens. You know, or like another person that I follow, another teacher that I follow is Erin Lyons. I don't know if you heard of her, but she says, like you gotta follow that. I'm gonna do this first because this is what excites me the most.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna expect a result exactly. Like maybe this person won't call me. Maybe a person that is better for what I want to do calls me or emails me or something happens that is better. But always something better, something good will happen. You know,
Yes.
because we always think, oh, I want this to happen this way. You
Yep.
know, and that's what happened to me a lot of times in my career. Like I wanted something different to happen, and then all of a sudden something better will come. I will get disappointed because I wouldn't get what I wanted in the beginning, but then later I'm thinking, wait a minute, I met this person through that, and this person came to me and started crying because I helped him with something. I was like, wow, and that meant more than being on the biggest stage that I wasn't on.
Exactly.
Little things like that makes me appreciate it later.
Absolutely. And along my journey, I remember learning to have gratitude and forgiveness were two of the big, well, I should probably say learning to have gratitude, learning to have forgiveness, but forgiveness of others and of self, because you got to forgive yourself. We tie ourselves up with traumas all over the place. But then the third thing, like for me, that was like a big like shift or really changed things for me. It was gratitude, forgiveness, and then the third one was like I don't know the best way to explain this, but it was allowing like myself to feel comfortable. We never feel comfortable, and this shows it's very to spot, it's very easy to spot this in someone or people. And we instead of being comfortable, we showcase fear, stress, anxiety, and things like that. And the more you can get comfortable, it's like telling your body, I can handle this. Like people are all out there, they all want to be a millionaire and all this stuff, right? Well, your nervous system can't handle you being a millionaire because you haven't allowed it to feel that. And so it's like learning that everything we were taught was essentially wrong and incorrect and it's backwards, and that you don't have to A plus B to, you don't have to do this to get that. There is a infinite ways you can accomplish this without going that route. You just got to get your mind away from it. So it's like breaking down all these mental barriers of, because you there's a lot of trauma that we have. They call this the dark night of the soul and all that type of jazz, right? Well, what they're talking about is we don't forgive ourselves, and we hold a lot of shame, and we hold a lot of like
Mm, mm,
not I'm not deserving, And I remember
mm.
going through this and how heart-wrenching this was, and your eyes fill with tears, and you have to work through this because it's literally trauma that's leaving our system. And this trauma
Yep.
leaving our system, it allows us to become more comfortable. And as we become more comfortable and our bodies relax, these opportunities start to come and great things start to roll.
Wow. Yeah.
I began to get little breadcrumbs of this, and I began going, oh my gosh, I'm on the path. I can tell because it feels good. I
Mm,
feel whole. And this is where then gratitude comes into play. And there is so many things, every single one of us, even if you are not happy with circumstantially where things are at right now, there is a laundry list of things that you could say you're grateful for, like running water, food, shelter, and really do take these things for granted in Western society. We do. But not all around the world do people have what we have. And so I remember like getting into my shower in the morning, and the only thing I had to be grateful for early on in my journey, because I was so pissed off and I didn't have what I wanted, and I wasn't where I wanted. I didn't have the bank account I wanted. And I was like, whoa, I'm so negative. And I remember
mm,
like I need to find gratitude. So I would get into my shower and tell myself I'm thankful for this warm water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My electric bill would come to my house. Instead of getting pissed at it, I would say, I'm thankful that I have electricity. I have gratitude to have electricity so I can charge a phone and make, use that phone to make money or, call my family. And so I started to just really change how I spoke to myself. And
Mm.
that, oh, through gratitude, it's like the universe starts to say, hey, you're finally starting to appreciate all the good you have, so let me give you more.
And I think if appreciating and gratitude, that is basically you are in the path of the of less resistance, like Abraham Hicks talks about,
Right.
where your resistance is kind of leaving your body, right? So the because the universe and the frequency and the energy is always good, and then I think when we're like pessimistic and we feel like victims and blah blah blah, all this stuff, we're not in the same flow. We're not in the same kind of frequency. So we're kind of so once we start being grateful and relaxing, like you're saying, into yourself, who you really are, right? And appreciating little things, you know, then you kind of get in there a little bit into the flow of the good stuff. You know what I mean? And and
Absolutely.
and and it's just started rolling and getting the momentum going with other stuff. And when you really also you forgive yourself or you love your I should say love yourself, because I something else I learned is like when you say forgive, I'm thinking Abraham Hicks and many other teachers have said, what are you forgiving yourself for?
Yeah.
You know, it's like you haven't done anything wrong. You
Yeah.
always been good,
Yeah.
and you just pinched off. Get back in there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
So
so
well said.
yeah, so one thing I want to ask you, going back, you mentioned that you had some struggles growing up, which I did too, because I had some of that stuff as well in my life growing up. Again, for people, a lot of people do know, but I'm actually was born in El Salvador and I grew up. And beautiful, beautiful childhood, beautiful family, beautiful times. But there was a civil war,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of other issues, the religion and a lot of that kind of stuff that came to kind of went like, oh, what's going on here in my life? And so I grew up with some of that kind of resentment and a little bit of the fears and things like that. You mentioned something there in the past that you struggled with. How do you overcome? What was it, and how do you overcame that?
Yeah, so for me, it was a big kind of like identity type of issue. Like I, I started playing music at a very early age. We became a garage band in like sixth grade, right? And so we started playing music very early on. And that got attention like within our schools and stuff like that. And it was like, oh yeah, they're the rock band. We were playing like little local shows and stuff like that. And so I kind of created this identity around this character of who Mike Kitlas was, like this rock star character, right? And I remember, going through this and, on tour thing, you're touring all over. There's drinking, there's drugs, there's, all that type of stuff around you all the time. And it's acceptable or okay because you're like this public figure playing music and people just associate sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Well, then when I quit the band, and I left and I took a step back, I remember sitting there and, you're like 4 or 5 beers deep on your couch watching, some sitcom going, dude, it's not cool that you're fucking drunk right now on a Tuesday night, like now you're just like this fucking dude who's working a shit dead end job, drinking on his couch, like you're a
Right.
fucking loser. And I remember that's what I felt. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm a loser. Like this used to be cool because I was, Mike the guitar player in the band partying. But no, not anymore. Now you're working a 9 to 5 that you hate. You make shit money and you're sitting on your couch getting drunk. And I remember being like, wow, I don't like this feeling. It was the lowest point in my life. And I do believe like you need to hit these lows. And I'm not going into crazy detail here, but everybody and anybody who's ever struggled with any type of like substance abuse or anything like that, they know what I'm talking about. You
Yeah.
like you like it's like a shameful feeling of like, dude, I'm not worth anything. And then it's compounded and feels more like real because you're intoxicated too. So like you're feeling
Mm,
that even more. And I was just stuck in that loop. And it was the worst feeling ever. I,
yeah. It just didn't go with the way who you really are.
it
It
was
just
my
didn't
higher
fit.
self saying, "Hey, you're ready to change your character." I heard that one quote. I can't remember who said it, but I think it might have been Jim Carrey. Is it they were saying like depression is just your avatar telling you that it's really ready to change characters. And that's
Mm,
really what it is, which is
yes.
your higher self saying, "Come on, I'm how low do you need to feel before it clicks and you wake up?" You know, that's where I feel like I was I had to get so low that I was like, I am so tired of my own shit to go up and surrender and not make excuses in my head, oh, not today, or I'll stop doing this later. Like we make all these excuses and we try to bleed it out. And, because the ego loves the habitual, known things in life. And it's very hard to live, or to get in these uncomfortable situations and continue moving forward when you don't see anything at first. I didn't
Right.
see the money. I didn't see what's to come. I didn't see the business to come. I didn't see this greatness. All I knew was this felt like shit. I didn't like it and I have to change it. But it was hard to change it rather than just keep repeating the work the 9 to 5, come home, get drunk, go to bed, and rinse and repeat. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Exactly. Wow. So, exactly. We're back to that again, where you were almost forced to change, but also I was gonna say that a lot of people have resistance towards change, even if they think they have to change, because they can't leave something that they're addicted to, or they can't leave something that they think they should have all the time. I mean, I have friends and a lot of people that I've seen is like, oh man, it's so good that you're eating so well. Um, but I could not ever, man, leave my beer with my pizza or something. That's like my thing, or the chocolate or whatever. And they always keep something. They always keep holding on to something, right? And that
Mental
keeps
mind
them,
pattern.
yeah, it keeps them attached to the past. So there's no openness for change, right? And so you mentioned that where when you found you didn't really have to imagine a future, selling homes, let's say, right? You didn't know you were gonna like it, right?
No. And I didn't
But
even know I was going to do that at this stage yet.
yeah, but you had this thing is like, I'm here for something more. I want to be of service, you know, and I'm better than what I'm doing now. I am better. I love myself. You know what I mean? To be
Yep.
doing like that's one thing I said to myself when I actually was depressed too in the past. I'm like, I'm love myself too much and I like myself too much to be depressed. Like it just doesn't fit. You know what I mean? And so um some people would say, yeah, you gotta visualize your future. Maybe sometimes we don't know,
Yeah.
right? We,
Most
we
people don't.
yeah, and then but we have this feeling of like, I want to be inspired. Like what I'm saying to myself now in my career that I've done it for 30 years, and I'm like, things change, career changes, you start a certain way and everything kind of starts modified and differently, and then you like, and I'm thinking I always want to for the because in my career I think I'm almost retirement kind of looks too far from me in a way of like I always want to keep doing something fun. Like it's not like I'm gonna go home and like what I'm gonna do now. But I
Right.
always say whatever I do, I want to do it with passion. I want to be inspired and I want to inspire others. I want to be of service, you know, and please, universe and source, like guide me to use my skills, my talents, my gifts. I want to be comfortable. And I'm
You
still like, for example, this podcast, I was like a little uncomfortable because I'm like, I'm not dancing, so people don't see my moves.
Yeah,
they'll
right,
they'll see me talk and they're like, "Start!" Like, what is the guy saying? What? I don't understand what he's saying. I'm like, watch me dance, man.
right. That's so funny.
But but anyway, so because of my dancing was my tool, it's like people were like, "Oh my God,
That's
but
it.
exactly. So now it's like I lost my. It's not like I want to. It's like I left my identity of that dancer, choreographer, this artist, this actor, this all these things I do, and to sit down and talk and conversate and change ideas and let's do it. I'm excited. Let's do it. But I was in the beginning. I actually was telling Frank the same thing. I think it's like the time I decided I'm going to do the podcast. I'm gonna do it. And I'm like, oh, I'm not ready. I don't feel ready. I'm not ready. I'm not excited. I'm not ready. I don't feel goosebumps. I don't. And then one day I did feel it, coming home, and I was like, tonight is the night. I want to say something cool. And I went to my room. I started recording it, and I put it out there. Everybody loved it. Like a lot of people said, like, oh my God, that was so awesome. You
Yes.
really spoke to me. I was like, wow. And I was like, oh, yeah, I was kind of nervous, but I did it. And anyway, so I'm getting off a little bit of what I was gonna say. So a lot of people don't have that belief that they can do better, that if you just listen to your inner being and just like you're saying, you work on yourself, you learn to breathe, you meditate, you do all this stuff, you can find the path.
So I love where you're going with this because you're so right. When we're feeling in this shit, experience and we're not happy and we're frustrated, this is so normal. And the only if there somebody says, "Oh, you just need to envision where you want to be. You got to visualize." Well, you're right. They don't know where they want to be. They're so far scattered. I don't know what I want. You have to bring yourself back home. You have to bring yourself back home. And physical things help with that, right? And so, like for me, like what I would tell people is it starts by doing the next right thing. We all know what the right thing is. That can be as simple as waking up at a certain hour, not getting up at 11:30 or something, getting up at 6:30, 7, and starting there. And then maybe you're making your bed now on day 2 or day 3, and you're keeping this pattern going. And now we're going to cut out, hey, I'm drinking way too much alcohol, or I'm drinking way too much soda. Okay. And then I'm going to start with my food. Am I eating healthy food? Is my body getting exercise? Because, like, right now, we are all so dehydrated, fed like crap. It's like hard for your body to feel good or you to have any mental clarity because we're just taught to numb ourselves with dopamine hits by Western media and Western society. Like that's what's considered normal is going out with your friends to go drink poison and talk shit about your spouse and your work, your employees or your friends at work and your boss. And you just drown in this of pity and self-hate. And we call that normal in America. And we make TV shows about it. And
Yeah,
we
that's crazy.
normal. But it's so far gone from where we really need to be focusing, which is
I
our
know.
energy and intention on what direction we're trying to go. Okay. And so I always tell people start with doing things that we all know deep down are healthy, right choices that are going to make us feel good inside. That's a
Mm,
and from there, you're going to start to get some mental clarity, because you're going to bed at a good time. All right, I'm going to be in bed by 10. I'm going to be up by 7. I'm not going to be drinking during the week. I'm making these healthy choices. As you begin to make healthy choices, things are going to start, you're going to feel a little bit better. And in that state, then from there, you're going to be able to follow your passion, like Bashar talks about, and Abraham Hicks, and all of the greats, which is you will feel a direction that you want to get pulled. Something will happen. Some feeling. Somebody will call. You'll get this gut feeling that you should go visit a friend or go do some activity where somebody's going to introduce an opportunity to you, and you're like, "Hey, does that feel right? Yeah, this feels right. Let's
mm,
go." And that's how you'll get on your path. You don't need to say, I'm going to be this Wall Street guy, because that is no, that's more of what you were told is happiness and you saying, okay, I'm going to visualize that and then I'm going to be happy. You see what I mean? So you're taking
Yeah.
somebody else's story about what happiness is and you're saying, I'm going to visualize that. But you're still coming from the wounded inner child that doesn't know what they want and isn't in a spot mentally or physically to have the clarity they need to assess a certain situation.
Wow. Yes, exactly. So good. So well put there. Started little step by step things. Cleaning up your mess a little bit in ways and it reminds me of like people, friends or whatever I've heard say in the past is like, this is the job or this is the career to get into because that's where people are making the most money now or something. Like this is what you should do because you know this is what everybody's doing now and this is what's working. Like I always thought that was for me never worked because it wasn't my passion. It wasn't that excitement that I wanted to have in life. You know what I mean? Like we came here to have joy, like Abraham Hicks says, like, and to have this eagerness of things, And so when you say it's like don't get into something because everybody else is doing it. And that's like, for example, let's say nursing. Nursing is tough. It's a tough career, it's a tough job. Long hours, you know what I mean? Like that's hard. So I've had a lot of friends that go into nursing because of the money, right? Are they enjoying it? I don't know. I mean, maybe, but are you going in? I said to my friend one time, "Oh, you going in because you're passionate about nursing?" He goes, "No, look how much money nurses make." you know?
That's unfortunately 90% of the way we choose our roles and jobs.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's like, wow, okay. He never really. So he did his career as a nurse. Was he happy? Maybe. I don't know what happened. Maybe he changed his mind later. I don't know. But people live uh, this life of doing things maybe that they're not really happy about until they retire, you know. And just I did all, and finally they retire. Finally, now I can have fun, you know. And I'm like, what? You could have had fun this whole time.
Exactly. Exactly. And that is what people are realizing.
Yeah, it's so good to have these talks because they see a person like you so successful in things that happen. You had to work at you had to study, you had to make it the first step into jumping into something you're not sure about takes a lot of courage and a lot of work.
Thank you.
It's not like I've been there many times where I'm like, I'm jumping. What? I'm jumping. Grah!
Yep.
You, you
That's
know,
what it felt
you,
like.
and and like and I'm there like swimming in, I'm there like doing whatever. And I come out like, wow, man, that was awesome. They're like, wow, I admire you. I could never ever done it. Like just never ever done it. And I said to, when I was dancing and I'm like, I want to be an actor, and then I became an actor and I went to auditioning and everything. And all of a sudden I'm doing commercials and I'm doing TV shows. And I'm like, and my friends like, already you were doing something crazy, doing shows on stage and getting on the mic like, getting people going like like all 1,000 people go yeah and screaming on the stage, and all of a sudden you want to be an actor, you're doing that. I'm like, yeah, because I jumped into it because I was excited about it and because I knew I could do it, you know. And it's like a lot of people don't take those jumps, and sometimes I feel like I'm kind of crazy of doing crazy stuff like that.
No, we are taught not to take those jumps. Western society, our television shows, our teachers, our parents, they're all saying, "Hey, no, 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 play it safe. Go get that job, that nursing job. Everyone makes good money as a nurse." We're taught not to take the jump. And that's what made me want to take the jump was I know this doesn't on paper pencil out, but it feels right. It creates excitement. I want to do this. I'm gonna go for it. And I think more and more people are now waking up to that, through social media, all the different online consciousness, manifestation, all these different niches coming together and sharing, success stories and things like that, where people are starting to realize, hey, how I think about something, how I feel about something, it impacts how that's reflected back to me. This world is just a mirror. And the sooner that people realize that, oh my gosh, you are going to relax, you're going to start laughing, you're going to say,
Nice. I love it.
I was the one the whole time holding my head down underwater, going, why can't I breathe? Why can't
Wow. That's such a good thing. It's good to say that out loud because we think somebody else is doing it for us, but we're the ones going like,
holding ourselves down, going, why can't you? Why won't you let me up?
who's choking me? It was my own hand. Like,
But
that's funny.
when it clicks, you go, oh my gosh, I've been my own worst enemy this whole time. I've been, the reason how talk to myself is so important. And I've been my, harshest critic my whole life. And this has kept me from doing the things that I love. And then
Wow.
you dive in head first.
So we're almost at the end here, but I want to ask you two more things and regarding manifestation, because there's a lot of things out there right now where people are trying hard to manifest. You know what I mean? And it's not about the manifestation. It's about like the journey. It's about the little things. It's about the being outside and being grateful of every moment. Like, and we all get caught up in that whole manifestation thing. I want what Mike has. You know what I mean? Like Mike, like he did this. Now he's successful in his business and everything. But you didn't start that way. You know what I mean? Right? What do you think of that?
Yeah. So I guess sharpen the question. Do you want me to answer how I look at manifestation?
Yeah, and how do you look at manifestation in a way of being more easy about it? Like because people are so hard on it, like they want to manifest $1 million and they can't manifest it. They're like, oh,
Yeah. I totally
but you understand like the yeah.
following. Okay. So number one, I've been there, so I know exactly how you feel. But I'd like to start by saying the reason you want or desire something is your higher self is showing you, different versions of things out there available to you. So if there's something you desire and you want to do, your higher self is saying, "Hey, this timeline, this reality exists for you." Right? Okay? So I personally, I've never been like, I must be an NBA superstar or an NFL superstar. I could care less about being an athlete because that is not on any of the timelines I came here to participate in. So if your desire, let's say this $1 million like you're talking about, it's your higher self saying, hey, there's a reality that exists with this $1 million present. That right there should help take some of the pressure off of how it feels to have to want something. Next, I want you to think about any time you've interacted with maybe like a the opposite sex for you, right? And when you're interacting, and anytime somebody's like coming on so much or so strong, you're kind of like, oh, like you naturally feel repelled from them, and it feels like, dude, this person's too needy, or they want it, or something. So that's you with your own manifestation. Your manifestation's on the other side going, oh, this is so needy and weird. I can't come into this because I wouldn't feel this way on this timeline. So that's how like I would explain it in like an easy to understand way. So
Mm,
don't think because or don't think if you stop thinking about something or stop, having a goal that it's just going to not materialize or fall away and it won't ever come. That's mistake one. And when you let go of that, it will show up in a way that you could have A, never imagined, but B, like you talked about earlier in this show, maybe even better than you could have imagined. And that whole idea that you want and desired just falls to the wayside because this new thing is so freaking amazing. Okay.
yeah.
So, like, it's not that if you stop thinking about something or stop having this goal, it's not going to happen. We need to get over that feeling. Your constant want and neediness around that is actually repelling that from you. So let's understand that. That's why I use a relationship example because
Yeah.
everybody's kind of felt that before. And so they can kind of be like, oh, I see what you mean. Like that's weird, right? So that's a good way to understand like how that since that feeling is. So then you relax into it and you're like, okay, well, how would I act? How would I feel? What would I be doing if that timeline existed, or if I had that $1 million, right?
Mm.
Would I be worried? No. Would I be constantly thinking about money? No. Would I be worrying about bills? No. Okay, let's start there. How does that
Mm.
feel?
Mm.
Relax yourself. Because now we're showing this level of confidence as if, this thing that has yet to materialize already exists. Now we're starting to step into, our highest and true self. Now we're starting to step into these timelines. And
Wow.
so anytime I am trying to quote unquote manifest any given situation, I ask myself, how would it feel if I already had that? And that's where I tried to hold my energy. I try to hold it in a space of knowing that either this is going to materialize or something so much better than this is going to materialize that I won't even care about that. And I go on with my day. And
Wow.
oh my gosh, you will be blown away by what little opportunities, situations, people you meet, run into that start to happen because you're no longer repelling this energy away, these timelines away from you. You're actually stepping into that character, stepping into that role, and it clicks. It's
Mm.
like magic.
So easy does it.
Yeah, well, row your boat, gently down the stream. Merrily, merrily, merrily. Life is but a dream. That's true. That
That's
is,
so funny. That's
and
awesome.
the more you relax, the more you receive. And I know this is completely opposite to everything you've been taught and told. Hustle harder, grind harder. Well, guys, go open up your door and look at, these different like people that are out there working hard labor, etc. Are they making millions? Or no? Are they working hard? Absolutely, harder than you ever have. So how does your argument of work hard, equals, millions? No, it doesn't. We've been totally led down these weird mental paths and habits, to keep us from success. And it's
Wow.
like you have to learn to relax, learn to call your energy back, learn to go within in order to experience this flow that we call life. But you're not trusting it. You're still going back to the, hey, I don't see it out here yet, so I'm not allowed to feel it in here. And
Mm.
until you realize and until it clicks that it's how I feel in here then gets reflected out here, that will be a huge game changer for you. And that's what changed my life tenfold, drastically, is I
Wow.
started to go within.
Nice. Beautiful said. Now you are a master teacher. You're a teacher now too. You know what I
I,
mean? You are a teacher. You're
I'm
teaching
a
everybody.
forever student.
And all of us are students and teachers, I believe, somehow. And thank you. I want to talk to you about a perspective shift because I
Yep,
love the podcast, but I think we're running out of time.
no
So
problem.
I want to have you back for part two.
Let's
Would you
do
be
it.
into it?
I would love
Yeah,
I would love to join you for a part two. I would
I love
love
it.
to have you on perspective shift because I
Woo!
think it would be just phenomenal. I've already talked with Frank about that. I saw Frank earlier this week when we were filming this week's episode. So we're going to have you on as a guest on our show. That way we can share the story of Gustavo with the perspective shift audience.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's a manifestation right there.
Yes,
Woo!
see? Yes.
And I
I love
didn't
it.
have to I didn't have to call you guys and send you like 20,000
No,
letters or
no.
phone.
It all unfolded exactly like it should. Yep.
All right. Hey man, I love you. You're so awesome.
Love you.
Um,
Thank you, sir.
so I want to, before we leave, you have website, you have social media, right? You're in Instagram, you're in
Absolutely.
everywhere, right?
Yep. So for if you want to visit my website's going to be all real estate related. So if you guys are looking for real estate in and around the Arizona area, or even if you have a question about real estate, you want somebody you can trust who's going to give you some good advice, call me. I'm happy to
Nice.
help. I help buyers, I help sellers, I do it all. I do investment, I do consultation, all of the above. You can see my website. It is www.michaelkitlasgroup.com. We'll share that in like the,
Thanks.
description area
Yeah.
for you. And then check out my podcast. That's why I wanted to come on Gustavo's show, is to share, because business is whatever. Business is going to come no matter what. You get into the zone, business comes. I want people to take away from this conversation, hey, what's going on here? I want to learn about myself. That's the biggest gift you can give yourself. So go listen to my podcast called Perspective Shift. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/perspective shift now, NOW. Or you can find us on Apple Music, Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that type of stuff. We're all over. Same thing with our Instagram, Perspective Shift Now. My handle for my real estate is at Michael Kitlas. So look us up. But I want people to take away from this that you can have everything that you've ever imagined and more, simply by learning how to tap in and work with your own energy. Because when this starts to click for you, there is nothing that you can't accomplish or do or experience, and
Mm,
everyone deserves this. Um,
nice.
everyone.
Nice. I love you. Hey, that's awesome. Thanks, man. That's awesome to finish that way. Uh, anyways, everybody, I will put all the links in the description of what we can find Michael,
Yep.
and thank you again for being here in the Into the Flow. It's such a good show,
Thank you
and
so much for having me.
I'm gonna have you back again for sure and learn
Perfect.
more and have more fun. All right, everybody, stay into the flow. Yes, remember, follow your flow, and you're gonna be fine. All right, guys. Until next time. All right, into the flow.
Thank you, Gustavo.